In 1962, I discovered Woodstock while riding with my parents between Millington and Memphis. The Interlocking is located just south of where Fight Road crosses the railroad tracks in Woodstock. There was a small road that ran south along the west side of the tracks, back to where the station was located. It seemed like the signals were always red, but when they turned green, the train was sure to appear. The line was double-tracked back then from Fulton to Woodstock. At the Interlocking, the tracks divided, with a passenger mainline single track to Memphis and Central Station going straight ahead or due south, and the Beltline, which was double-track that carried the freight traffic around the city, curving to the left. Looking north from the double-track beltway, the Interlocking would have looked something like this. The track around the city extended to East Junction, Woodstock's equivalent just south of Memphis. In this video from 1990, we see the bridge in the distance that takes the track from Central Station over the Beltway from Woodstock. In the coming years, these structures would completely disappear, just like the station at Woodstock. From the bridge over the Beltway from Woodstock, we are looking due south down the Granada subdivision toward Jackson, Mississippi, and the historic line that Casey Jones traveled. A lash-up of SW switchers takes a cut of cars from the Granada sub into Johnston Yard. Again, a peek south down the Granada sub. Meantime, back at Woodstock, if there was a green signal, I could generally con my parents into parking near the station and waiting for the train. One evening, thinking we had car trouble, a gentleman came out of the building to offer assistance. Explaining that we were just there to watch trains and the kid was a train buff, started a Saturday train watching tradition. Transportation provided by the bicycle in the foreground. Back in 1962, there was always an operator on duty to hoop up train orders and control the signals and switches. It was doubtful that was the case in 1982 when this picture was taken, and most certainly not by 1986 in this scene. For passenger trains, Woodstock was once a flag stop, but in 1962, nothing stopped there, not even the Southern Express, which according to the timetable seemed to stop everywhere. Passenger trains to watch while visiting Woodstock included the City of New Orleans, the railroad's premier passenger train, which headed north during the late afternoon, the Louisiana, sliding through shortly after 7 p.m., and the southbound Southern Express, which seemed to stop everywhere. Another famous passenger train, the Panama Limited, now Amtrak City of New Orleans, went through in the wee hours of the morning, both south and northbound. There were plenty of freight trains to watch too, like the CNs, or Chicago New Orleans 1, 5, and 7. And the northbound NCs, or New Orleans, Chicago, 6, 8, and 2. The operators were all very friendly, and I learned a lot about railroading there. They even let me put up train orders in the fixed hoops. Using the handheld hoops was out of the question for me. It was just too dangerous being that close to a fast-moving train. There was a small yard south of the depot on the passenger main that included several storage tracks. There were enough loads and empties moving in and out of Woodstock that a switcher, in fact called the Woodstock switcher, was set up from Johnston Yard on a daily basis. Inside the building was a box that controlled the signals and switches. In this 1986 photo, it would have been right where the computer monitor is. It had a track diagram just like the ones used by dispatchers, but on a much smaller scale. When a train approached, a white light would appear on the track diagram and a bell would sound. When that happened, the operator would line the switch for the appropriate train, according to the timetable and instructions from the dispatcher. This box controlled the semaphores, which in turn told the engineer there were train orders waiting. Well, that pretty much wraps up my Woodstock memories. In 1990, I would return, and all the great people were gone. In 2000, I would return again, and all those great people were still gone, plus the station. But the trains were still rolling. From Woodstock, Tennessee.
The railroad time capsule is now departing to return you to your present year.